The EastSide Chapter 8. I don't remember much after that. I could only recollect bits and pieces from what must have happened the rest of that night. I couldn't remember if the experiences were reality or just part of a vivid dream. All I could remember was hearing Janelle's voice and laughter or crying. I don't remember which one. I just remembered when I finally became conscious again of my surroundings. My eyes slowly started to open as I could feel my body still in pain. My sides were completely wrapped up like a mummy in bandages. My right arm was covered in a white cast, and the top of my head was bandaged as well. The only relief for the pain was the soft white pillow that was lying against my throbbing head. My soft sheets from the bed against my body softened the pain on my back as well as my sore legs. My vision was blurry at first, as it felt like my eyes hadn't opened in weeks. I groaned from the pain as I began to see more clearly. I looked in front of my hospital bed with a small grin and was filled with happiness to see all the familiar faces surrounding me. Directly in front of my bed was Craig, sitting on a chair with a serious look on his face. To the right of him stood Danny and Andrew, and to the left was Freddie. I slowly turned my head and saw Teddy standing right next to my bed, looking down at me with a sad expression. All of them were dressed in all black attire, and not a smile or a grin was on any of their faces. I looked around the all white hospital room as I tried to sit up on the bed. Why is everyone so serious? And y'all happy to see me? I barely said, trying to adjust my voice. Everyone stood silent and began to look away from me or at each other, except Teddy, who just kept looking at me upset. Why all the long faces? I'm alive, guys. I'm good, I reassured them, trying to fight the pain. You were unconscious for the whole day. We thought that they might have killed you, Jay, Teddy said, placing his hand on my shoulder. Yeah, but they didn't. I'm fine, I said again, trying to change everyone's mood. Nah, you ain't fine, cuz, Craig yelled out, upset, standing to his feet and slamming his hand against the metal railing on the bed. It's time we stop playing with these spics, bruh. We fixing to check them boys right now. They burned up my crib and do this to you? I'll put this on my baby girl, dog. I see any of them poppies. I'm lighting their ass up like a Christmas tree. That white boy ain't lying, Jay. You rolling out there tonight with our bats, and we gonna see how good them Spanish boys play they baseball, Teddy explained. We all going, Jay, Danny added. Yo, shut the fuck up. You the one that left him there. You was supposed to have his back, and you ran away like some pussy. Teddy lashed out at Danny, turning his body toward him and talking with his fingers. Like I told you before, I didn't leave him anywhere. I couldn't find him after he walked out with that West Island girl. I searched everywhere outside, in the back, in the front, by the pool area, but I didn't see nobody. I just assumed he was getting some, so I called Andrew to pick me up. Come on, Ted. You know I ain't like that, Danny explained, with his feelings hurt by the accusation. Yeah, right. We supposed to be crew, and you let Jahvon get jumped by those poppies, Teddy yelled some more. Calm down, please, both of you, I said, barely speaking as my voice just sounded like a whisper. Danny's right. I messed up. I was with Janelle and then left by myself. He did have my back. The poppies got me when I was distracted. I'm fine, guys. I'm tough. You're my best friend, Jay, and I will always have your back. And I feel like I wasn't there for you when you needed me, and Teddy, tell me a joke, I interrupted. I don't think this is the best, he said, shaking his head left and right. Come on, Teddy. Your jokes always make me feel better, I interrupted again, trying to make the mood in the room more positive. Please, Teddy. He let out a soft sigh while shrugging his shoulders and said, Why did the chicken cross the road? Why? I asked. To go to the strip club and get some chicken head from some chicken heads, he said, as everyone in the room started to laugh hysterically. There it is, I exclaimed, laughing. See, now I feel better. We laughed for a moment, but our joy was short lived when Andrew asked seriously, "Who did this to you?" "Christian, Janelle's boyfriend. It was him and a couple of his goons," I said, rethinking about the events that happened that night. "Christian? That poppy that owns Hostile Entertainment?" Craig asked quickly. "Yeah," I answered. "Man, I know who that is. I know where his studio at. He bitch made, cuh. Me and my cousin bought a beef from him. And he always be with that clown dude, Loco," Craig explained. "Yeah, he was there too," I remembered. "Oh, we fixing a ride on them boys," Craig said, excited, snapping his fingers. "Ain't nobody mess with the homie Jay." "You know where they at?" Teddy asked, intrigued. "Man, it's Monday night. They be hosting open mic nights at Club 24/7. I be seeing they flyers all over downtown," Freddie explained. "That right. And I know where their studio is, bruh. Let's get Ghost. We can take my Jeep," Craig added. "We out, Jay. We gonna go take care of business for you, man," Teddy said, pressing his fist against mine. "Yo, be careful. They like to carry guns too," I warned. "Bitch, I stay strapped, homie. Ain't a thing to me. A poppy want to test my trigger finger. I'm gonna let him know how itchy it is," Craig said, lifting up his shirt and exposing a 38 revolver special handgun stuffed in his pants. "Still, be careful. I love all y'all," I said, lying back on the bed. They nodded and began to leave the room, except for Teddy, who pulled up a chair and sat next to my bed and said, "Give us a minute. I gotta talk to Jay. Then we leaving." The group nodded and vacated the room as Teddy took a deep breath, still looking upset. "What's going on, man? You alright?" I asked, concerned, because I'd never seen Teddy so serious in all the years I've known him. He was usually so upbeat and the energized one in the group that made everyone around him feel good. His playful demeanor was one of the things everyone loved about him. But not today. He wasn't playful or trying to be funny. He was just serious. "I'm fine. I'm not the one laying in the hospital bed. Are you good?" "That's the question," he asked, still with no smile or smirk. "I told you I'm fine. I'll heal. Remember that time in sixth grade when we were riding bikes down the bike trail and my tire hit a rock and I ended up falling down that steep hill in the woods? I broke my wrist and twisted both my ankles," I explained as Teddy nodded his head, remembering the event. "I was out riding my bike again down the same path a week later. I'm tougher than I look." He looked down and stared at the floor for a moment, then looked up at me and said, "Saturday night was a crazy night for me, Jay. Janelle called me like at 2:30 in the morning. She said that she tried calling you 4 or 5 times, but you never picked up. So she got worried and called me. She said the fifth time she called, she heard your phone ringing outside by the gate and went to get it and saw the blood on the concrete. I went by your place to see if you were there, but you weren't. I drove down to Janelle's place and saw the phone and the blood. We both became frantic, but her a lot more than me. We searched all over, around the west looking for you. We finally found your car when the sun was coming up, but you weren't in there either. Janelle started to freak out and would not stop searching, so I stayed with her as we drove around for hours. We finally ended up at the park, and I was going to turn the car around, but she wanted to look around. When we finally saw you, you were completely unconscious. We tried waking you, but you wouldn't wake up. That's when we called the ambulance, and they came and picked you up. There was so much blood. and your face was swollen. It was just crazy to see you like that. The doctor said that we were lucky to find you when we did because if we waited one more hour, your throat would have swelled up too much, which would have stopped your path of air to get to your lungs. You would have died. I will never let that happen to you again, Jay, I swear. It's not your fault, I reassured. No, you have my word, Jay. Never again, he said furiously. I could have missed one class. I should have known going to that party was real important to you. Janelle's a cool girl. Janelle, where is she? I asked curiously. Oh, she's. Teddy replied before getting interrupted by my father rushing into the hospital room with Pops and his wife right behind him. Son, are you okay? Oh my goodness, look at you, my dad said, pushing past Teddy and coming close to the bed. Hey, Dad, I'm fine, I whispered. Just a little painful, but I'll be okay. Who did this to you? What happened? He asked as Teddy started to leave the room while giving me a hand signal to let me know he was leaving. I stayed silent for a moment because I was reluctant to tell my father the story. I was afraid on how he would react. Come on, son, tell me. Hey, boy, you've looked better, Pop said jokingly, trying to lighten the mood in the room as well. Hey, Pops, thank you, I replied sarcastically. Not now, Richard, my dad said to Pops. Now, tell me what happened. I got jumped by some poppies, I replied to him slowly. What? Where? He continued his questioning. On the west side, by Janelle's house, I said after taking a deep breath. What? What the hell were you doing on that side of town? Didn't I tell you not to go over there? Look at you. Your problem is you never listen, my father yelled, upset. Give him a break, Jacob. You see the boy's been through enough, Pop said, defending me. Mind your business, Richard. This is between me and my son, he snapped back quickly. And I want you to stop messing with that girl Janelle. It seems like every time she's around, some type of trouble comes around you. I don't trust her. She could have been the one to set you up. What? No. She was having a birthday party. I just wanted to give her a birthday present in person. She didn't even know I was coming, I explained. It doesn't matter. She's obviously one of them. And you belong over on this side. You know what's happening now. So stop being stupid and start thinking with the head that is attached to your neck and not your balls, he exclaimed very seriously as I turned my head away from him. He continued to lecture. Until this east side, west side thing is resolved, I don't want you seeing that girl, and I definitely don't want her in my house again. Look at me when I'm talking to you, boy. I turned my head back to face him. Do I make myself clear? He asked, looking deep into my eyes. Yes, sir, I answered, knowing that I had no intentions of abiding by his rules. Oh, my goodness. Jahvon, you didn't tell me the masquerade party was on the west side of town? Pops exclaimed. You knew about this? My dad asked Pops angrily. Now, calm down, Jacob. He told me that there was a party, but he did not tell me where. He must really like this girl if he's risking his safety for her. Let's just ease off of him a little, Pop said calmly. No! I'm tired of this mess. I have to miss a whole day of work when I just got promoted just so my horny son can get his dick wet and end up in the hospital? I don't think so. If he can't stay out of trouble, he needs to move out on his own, my father said, continuing to yell. It's not like that, Dad. I tried to defend myself. I don't want to hear it, my dad interrupted. Now, I'm going back to work. The doctor said you should be better after a week. Now, when you get back home, there's going to be some changes around here. No more of this east side and west side bullshit. I'm done with it. Yes, sir, I said, annoyed, as he walked out of the room. Pops grabbed a chair and sat next to my hospital bed. He's just in one of his moods, Jay. Don't worry about it, okay? I understand love makes us do crazy things. Just thank God you're still alive to talk about it. Listen, get yourself completely healed up, and we'll discuss the partnership afterwards. Okay? Okay. But, hey, who said I was in love? I answered and asked quickly, slightly appalled by the accusation. He just smiled at me and softly patted my shoulder with his hand and got up as his wife came over to kiss me on my cheek and said, Hope you get better soon, Jahvon. Your father can be a bully sometimes, but he loves you. We all do. I cooked up some dinner and placed it in a container in case you get hungry. Thank you, Mrs. Nylon, I said, appreciative. You're welcome, she replied. Well, see you in a week, Jahvon. Feel better soon, Pop said, holding his wife's hand as they began to walk out of the room, waving. I laid my head deep into the pillow and looked up at the ceiling fan, just thinking about how crazy the summer had been. And as fall slowly approached, I hoped at that moment that things would go back to normal, to my regular life before this feud started. But I didn't realize that things were destined to get more complicated and would never be the same again. My thoughts rambled on until I started to feel more drowsy and my eyes began to shut, but was interrupted by a knock on the open door. I turned my head to see Teddy standing in front of the doorway with his body halfway through. Yo, Jahvon, you asleep? He asked with a grin on his face. Nah, I said, rubbing my eyes to focus my vision. Okay, good. Because I have a visitor, he said before slowly walking out of the room. I looked at the open space, confused as to whom he was referring to, when Janelle slowly walked in. Her uncombed, frizzy hair was pressed on her face as she stood by the door with a sad expression. She stared at me nervously, like an adolescent in trouble with her parent. I could feel her extreme emotions all the way from the door. She wore a regular pair of jeans, flip-flops, and a small hooded sweatshirt, and looked like she hadn't slept in days. Hey, you, I greeted with a smile. Why so far? I won't bite. Hard. She looked at me very seriously and replied, I'm sorry, Jay. She said it so softly that it almost sounded like a whisper, as her heavy emotions prevented her from speaking loudly. Come closer. I can barely hear you, I whispered to show her that I was not upset. I'm sorry, Jay, Janelle said, moving closer, until she finally was next to my bed. I looked up at her and saw a better visual of her face, which had bags under her eyes from lack of sleep, while her eyes seemed bloodshot from what looked like incessant crying. It's okay. It's not your fault. Sit down, I suggested. She sat down in the chair as I could see tears emerging from her eyes. I thought they killed you. I looked at her with a grin and said, Well, they didn't. When I saw you laying there on the slide covered in blood, I lost it, Jay. I could see that the image of me battered and bruised was still fresh in her mind. I kept screaming and crying the entire time, screaming at you to wake up, but you wouldn't. I'm okay, Janelle. I'm here. This is me, I reassured her, trying to settle down her heavy emotions that looked like they were placing a heavy load on her. I rode the ambulance with you, trying to get you to wake up. And I kept thinking, this is my fault, she said, as I kept telling her that it was not her fault. No, it is. As soon as I saw Loco, I should have told you to go because I had a feeling he would call Christian. I didn't, though. I was being selfish. I was only thinking about me and how good you. What? I asked after she paused herself. If they would have killed you, I would have never forgiven myself, she said as tears started to drip down her cheek. This is trouble. We need to just stay away from each other. I'm sorry I've ever got you into any of this. I have to go. No, I said, grabbing her hand as she began to get up and walk towards the exit. Don't go. She looked back at me confused, still thinking I was mad at her. Stay. I like the company, I said, pulling her arm softly until she sat back down into the chair. Listen, Janelle, I don't blame you for any of this. This was Christian. We can all say what we would do differently after the event happened. But maybe we can't change the past because they were supposed to happen that way. I'm just glad you're here, visiting me now. She smiled as my words brought her comfort, as tears fell from her cheek. I wiped them away. Visit? I never went home. I was just so scared. When I saw you lying there, I honestly felt like the worst person in the world. When the doctor came out to the lobby and told us that you were alive, I felt even worse. I thought you were going to hate me or think I set you up. I didn't set you up, Jay. I know. I know. I heard what your dad said. He yelled it for the whole hospital to hear. I thought you were going to listen to him and hate me. I was gonna go home, but Teddy forced me to talk to you. He said that you needed it, she explained, still emotional. My dad is an asshole. Don't even worry about him, I said, placing my fingers through the young girl's hair and slowly reaching for her arm to raise her body from the chair. You look tired. Yeah, I haven't been back home yet. I haven't showered or anything. Ugh, I must look like a mess, she replied, yawning, rubbing her red eyes. Nah, you look fine. Come here, I said, sliding over to the other side of the bed to make room for her while pulling her arms to come lay down. Jay, no, I can't. I have to take the bus home, she said, shaking her head back and forth, trying to pull her hand away from mine. Come on. You look exhausted. You need it more than I do right now, I said, trying to smile through the pain in my body. She reluctantly climbed into the bed and curled up as I wrapped my arms around her and held her tight. She stared into my eyes for a moment, but her eyes were too heavy to resist closing. My eyes closed shortly after hers, and we both fell into a deep sleep. It was a peaceful sleep, with no interruptions or dreams, just a feeling of serenity and tranquility. I could honestly say it was probably the best sleep I've ever had because it was with the best person I've ever known. The rest of the week, as I healed up, Janelle came to the hospital every day, from the beginning of visitor hours until the end. She would bring food from home to feed me and bring her homework to do for school. She watched as the nurses tried to rehabilitate me because I was having problems walking, but she kept trying to encourage me with her words. We would lie on the bed and watch television, or she would bring her chessboard from home and try to teach me how to play. I enjoyed that entire week we spent together. I slowly understood what Pops meant about love and what it actually felt like. I liked Shantae, but never like this. This was new. This was different. It felt like I had reunited with a long lost best friend or my universal companion. We conversed every day while starting to realize how much of the same things we had in common, and how most of her strengths were my weaknesses, and vice versa. I remembered staring at her one night when I was feeling much better while she was reading her book for school and thinking how beautiful she looked doing it. Oh, before I forget, I brought you a slice of pie. My aunt baked it. She makes the most amazing cherry pies, Janelle said, reaching into her bag and pulling out a plastic plate wrapped in aluminum foil. Want it? Sure, I said, grabbing the plate from her hands with pleasure. I used the plastic fork that she handed to me and removed a piece from the pie and placed it in my mouth. The taste was amazing. It was baked to perfection, like something that was prepared in a bakery. I exclaimed with a full mouth, "Oh my God, this is so good." I know, right? She exclaimed. She made it last night, so I took a piece this morning when I saw it lying in the kitchen. So, you didn't have a slice yet? I asked, devouring the tasty pastry. No, I'm fine. I'll have some later, she said, continuing to read her book. I looked at her reading again and thought about what Pops had said about the last piece of pie, and it finally made sense to me. As I said, "Here," handing her the last piece on the plate, still with a piece of crust on top of it. No, that's fine, Jay. You can finish it, she said, thankful for the gesture. I want you to have it, I said, still stretching the plate toward her. Thanks, she said, shrugging her shoulders, then eating the remaining piece of pie on the plate, rolling her eyes at the delicious taste, and speaking with a full mouth. Oh my God, this is so good. I know, right? I exclaimed as we both laughed. I stared at her as she went back to her reading, and from that moment on, I knew I didn't just like her. I knew that I was deeply in love with her. That next Sunday, the nurse told me that I was well enough to leave the hospital. Janelle came to visit me again, but that day she helped me leave. I had to use crutches because my legs were not 100% yet, so she helped guide me through the elevators and steep hallways. The clothes I wore to Janelle's party were still stained with blood, so Janelle bought me a pair of basketball shorts, flip-flops, and a white t-shirt to go home with. Once we got out of the hospital, we took a taxi to my apartment. Driving through the city streets, I watched Janelle looking out the window and observing the urban communities that resided on the east side. The houses and apartments were much older and smaller than those on the west. More people used public transportation and were outside their homes more frequently. She was intrigued by the down to earth vibe she received from the environment. I could see her smile grow as her comfort grew. Once we reached my apartment, the taxi driver helped me pull my crutches from the trunk before receiving his money for the ride. We walked towards my apartment for a moment, but I decided to take a quick detour. Hey, I want to show you something, I said, leaning my head toward the left to indicate to follow me. Where are we going? Janelle asked as we walked. I'll show you. You showed me your special place, so I want to show you mine, I stated with a grin. It better not be some drug house, she said jokingly. Shut up. Come on, I said, going faster with my crutches. She followed me through the complex as we walked through the parking lot, admiring the cool evening air. We walked over to a metal gate which I told her to open because my arms were occupied by my crutches. We entered into a playground with a large basketball court. This is what you want to show me? She asked, not impressed. No, I answered, hopping down a concrete walkway, lying over a field of grass. We kept walking until we reached the corner of the walkway, which led us to two large concrete walls, attached together by another large concrete block used for a ceiling. The corridor was square and completely covered with graffiti. The spray painted area was full of designs, names, and pictures. The details were so complex, It looked as if a trained artist had designed the art that were splattered against the walls. This is what I wanted to show you. Wow, she exclaimed as she looked all around the large corridor, admiring the artistic genius that was used to spray paint all over the walls and the ceiling. She walked around with her mouth open and said, "This is amazing." We call it the 16th Chapel. It was a place for kids who were artists, who did art and graffiti, could come to express themselves artistically and keep out of trouble by not spray painting on public property. We gave it the name because if you look up, this kid named Michael painted that scene of the dragon blowing fire coming from hell into heaven, where the fire turns into wind and raindrops. He was like the hood's own Michelangelo or Da Vinci. "These are so good," she said, touching the walls. "These kids should go to art school or something." "Ha!" I mocked sarcastically. "These kids can't afford that type of stuff. They just do it for the love of it. It's not much, but it's beautiful," she interrupted, still admiring the art. I slowly crept behind her and placed my crutches against the wall before I wrapped my arms around her waist and kissed her softly on the cheek. I pressed the side of my face against her head and said softly into her hair, "I guess things don't seem as important unless you can see it through someone else's eyes." My comment made her grin as she placed her hands on top of mine, absorbing my embrace. "I'm glad you brought me here," she said sincerely. "Me too," I responded. "Way better than getting thrown from a giant horse." She gave me a shocked expression and playfully slapped me on my arm right before she turned to the right corner of the gallery and asked, "What's that?" She quickly removed herself from my grasp and rushed to the right corner of the wall in front of her. I grabbed my crutches and hurried behind her. "What's what?" I asked, hopping behind her. She stopped at the right corner with an excited look on her face as I rushed behind her confused. "I don't see anything," I stated as I tried to look behind her. "Exactly!" she exclaimed with more excitement than before. "This part over here has the only blank space left." "So?" I questioned. "Let's draw something too," she said with a big smile on her face as I grinned back, amused by her enthusiasm. "Draw something?" I questioned. "Like what?" "I don't know. Anything. Something cool like a dragon blowing fire into heaven." I chuckled at her comment. "I don't think there's enough room for something like that. How about we just write our names?" I suggested. "Yeah, I have a cool way I write my name. I doodle it on my notebook all the time," she said, looking around frantic for something to paint with. She gazed up behind herself and called out, rushing toward an object lying on the floor in the opposite corner. "I think I see a can of paint right there." I looked on as she picked it up and started shaking it to see if any liquid was left. "Is it good?" I asked as she nodded her head yes, with the excitement of a kid on Christmas Day unwrapping presents. "Fluorescent Paint X," she read on the label. "What's that for?" "Oh, you have to see this place at night. All the pictures are done with fluorescent paint. So, at night, the lights on the top corners turn on. They're all black lights, so it makes it look like the drawings glow in the dark. It looks incredible," I explained. "Promise you're going to come back and see it one day." "I promise," she said, turning to me with a grin. I looked down as she began to write her name on the wall. She spelled out Janelle with a heart for the letter A. The skills did not quite match the rest of the prestige neighborhood gallery, but it looked nice just the same. "That's how you spell your name?" I asked, confused. "Why the Y? I thought your name was spelled with a J." "In Spanish, the Y's sound like J's, silly," she said, patting my arm. "Except when they call me Yaya." "Oh, okay," I said, absorbing the information. "Let me see that can." She handed me the rusty white can of paint as I began to write my own name right above hers. I spelled out Jahvon with the letter V in the shape of two handguns facing upwards in opposite direction. Nice. Mine looks better though, she said, jokingly, in a serious voice. I turned to her and began to laugh hysterically, as my laughter made her join in. I stared at her thinking, I'm always laughing around this girl. I'm supposed to be in pain, but all I could feel is joy through my entire body. If laughter is the best medicine, she could heal my soul. I grinned and placed a "and" symbol in between our names. She nodded her head in agreement and grabbed my hand. The sun is setting, I said, looking into the distance as the shadows of the sun's reflection began to spread through the entire corridor. We watched it for a moment as she rested her head on my shoulder. I looked down at my watch and said softly, It's getting late. She took a deep breath of disappointment and muttered, I know. We walked back into my empty apartment. My dad must have been at my grandparents', which he usually was on Sunday evenings with Lily. The hallway was dark from the lack of light as I crept to my bedroom using the dim light from the sun as guidance. I clicked on the light switch in my bedroom, but with no response. I flicked the switch up and down, attempting to get power, but the room remained dark. Darn, my light bulb must have burned out, I said, turning on the lights in the bathroom next to my room. Oh, for a second there, I thought you didn't pay your bills, Janelle said jokingly, turning on the stereo system. Ha, ha, I exclaimed sarcastically. Hey, I'm gonna go take a shower. It felt good to shower in my own bathroom. She barely heard me speak because of the smooth music coming from the radio. Oh, I love this song, she yelled over the volume in the speakers. Yeah, I have his whole album in my CD player. Check it out. I'll be out in a minute, I explained. She quickly pressed the CD player sitting on top of the stereo and turned up the volume. I could hear the music over the loud crashing water slamming against the tub. I could hear her singing along to the cool melody of the slow R&B. The words in the song reminded me of the girl standing 15 feet away from my naked body as I felt my stomach get tight from my nervousness. We had never been alone before. Not like this. Inappropriate thoughts began to cloud my head as my heart tried to clear it out. I respected Janelle, and I would not want to do anything to make her feel otherwise. But at the same time, I was more attracted to her than any other girl I had ever known. I kept repeating, "We are just friends," trying to convince myself that we were no more than that. The warm water felt amazing over my sore body as I could see the steam create a cloud around the shower curtain. I wanted to be with her. I needed to be with her. My thoughts became more animalistic by the second, and my urges were becoming too strong to fight. The feelings that I carried for her and my heart had to be expressed physically as well. And my only desire at that moment was her. All of her. I climbed out of the shower and placed a towel securely around my waist. I took a deep breath and reluctantly opened the bathroom door. The steam followed me outside the door as I walked into my bedroom to see Janelle sitting on my bed listening to the smooth music. She got up quickly after seeing my lack of clothes. I just began to look at her like a man worshiping a goddess and like a lion gazing at a gazelle. Maybe I should go, she said, stopping right in front of me, fiercely attempting to avoid eye contact while trying to make her way past me. I slid my body slightly to block her path from leaving. No, you shouldn't, I said, pressing my lean body against hers as she began to place her hand on my chest. Jahvon, we shouldn't do this, she said, breathing heavily. We shouldn't. But shouldn't is just a word. What I'm feeling is real, I said, placing my hands against the side of her face, placing my nose against hers. Our lips began to gravitate toward each other as our willpower began to diminish slowly. The smooth rhythm of the slow jam R&B music in the background helped drown out the loud breathing that pulsated through our lungs. I felt my lips start to creep down her face until she wrapped her arms around me and began pressing her lips against mine. Our resistance was futile, as we realized that we both wanted this moment as much as the other. She kissed me with such passion as our tongues abused each other inside our mouths. It felt like the temperature was rising, as I could feel her begin to let herself become one with the moment, and let her inner lioness attack me. I almost tripped as she pushed me against the wall and aggressively attacked my neck like a vampire after smelling fresh blood. The enthusiasm for each other became evident as I removed her shirt from her arms and tossed it toward the darkness. I calmly placed my hands beneath her curvy bottom and carried her as she wrapped her legs around my waist, still pressing her lips against mine. I laid her carefully on my bed and removed her jeans, one pant leg at a time. Amazed by her body, I began to kiss her tight stomach, surrounding her small belly button. I could see her eyes roll back into her lids as I began to kiss as low as her inner thighs could go. I could see her hands grip the sheets as her other hand removed my towel hanging from my leg. My enthusiasm for her satisfaction started to make her leak from inside, which saturated my dry sheets and caused her to moan uncontrollably. I slowly climbed onto the bed and blanketed her body with my own and placed my lips on her neck as she used her nails to claw my back, unaware that I was still sore from my injury. I showed no pain as I could feel the bed become a pond of our passion, and her screams of pleasure became background vocals to the soundtrack playing in the dark room. She began to ask me loudly to move more vigorously and take more control of her body as I obliged her every need. The pond became a lake as our sweat dripped from our naked bodies and her insides became an open faucet of pleasure and pain. I stroked deeply and slowly, touching every single crevice of her pearl, until I could no longer resist the tingling sensation that allured my body. I let out a howl as our energies began to fade, and we wrapped each other in our arms tightly. The strenuous activities fatigued our minds and bodies, as I could feel my eyes get heavy until they finally closed. All I could hear was the music surrounding the room and a faint whisper in my ear saying, "I love you. I love you too." The Eastside, Chapter 9. The sun's rays peeked inside my room as the light began to shine from the morning glare. I felt so comfortable in my position that I ignored it and burrowed my face inside the pillow to keep my eyes from opening. I could feel Janelle's soft body under me as I kissed her on the cheek with a smile, wishing we could stay in bed like this for the rest of the day. My kiss made her open her eyes and look back at me with a smile until suddenly she pushed me off of her and hopped out of the bed abruptly. "Oh my God, what time is it?" she yelled out frantically, running around the room in disarray, looking for her garments. "I don't know, like 7:30. Why?" I asked, lying on the bed, rubbing my eyes to clear up my vision. "I gotta go. I can't believe I fell asleep," she said, putting on her pants. "Calm down," I said, chuckling at the girl's hyper attitude. "You can just take a shower here and be just a little late for school." "No, no, I have to go now," she said, putting on her sneakers. "Why the rush?" What's wrong? I asked, removing myself from the comfortable bed, curious about her behavior. Nothing. I have to go, she said, grabbing her stuff and vacating my bedroom. I followed her while trying to put on my basketball shorts. Janelle, slow down. You don't have to, I said, chasing behind her down the hallway as we were stopped in the kitchen and saw Teddy pulling out some groceries from two plastic bags. Hey, Jay, your door was unlocked, so I let myself in. Teddy interrupted my speech with a large grin. And hey, Yaya, y'all look hungry. Let me hook y'all up with some breakfast, and you can tell me what you think. Hi, Teddy. Unfortunately, I can't. I really have to go, she said, declining his offer. You sure? I cook really good, he insisted. He really is a good cook, Janelle. Stay and have some breakfast, I said, trying to convince her to stay. I'm sorry, guys. I just can't, she said, walking towards the door. At least let Teddy take you home, I suggested. I'll be fine on the bus. I'm sorry, Jay. I'll call you later, okay? She said frantically, leaving the apartment. Okay, I said, confused. Yo! Teddy said excitedly, jumping up and down. She coming out your room this early? My nigga! Shh! I said, placing my finger over my lips. Not so loud. Please tell me you hit that, he inquired. I just looked away from him with a smile. Ah, look at little Jay! How was it? I looked into the distance with a smile, reliving the entire experience in my mind. It was incredible. He screamed out excitedly. That's what the heck I'm talking about, he exclaimed, slapping my hands. I just grinned at him, proud of myself. I think we're going to be together, son. Of course. But why did she run out of here so fast, though? He asked, rubbing his chin. That's a good question, I said, sitting down on the chair by the kitchen table. I'm pretty sure she enjoyed it too. Damn, dog. Don't tell me you ain't hit that, right? Shantae all over again, Teddy said jokingly. Shut up. I hit that right. I was on point, I said confidently. I think. You think? Either you waxed that ass or you didn't, he argued. I did, I yelled out, jumping off my seat. Maybe she had something really important to do. It's kind of strange, though. I hope she's okay. Maybe I should go talk to her. Nah, relax, Teddy encouraged, blocking me from going toward the door. I'm just messing with you. She probably just needs to take care of some stuff. She'll call you later. Think so? I asked, unsure of myself. Yes. Now, stop acting like a vagina and come have some breakfast. I'm about to hook it up, he said, calming me down. Okay. You still talk to Jasmine? I asked, sitting down, tasting some muffins he had brought over. Yeah, I saw her last week. We ain't having no sex, though. I have my little ass car, and we both live at home with our parents, so it's tough, he explained. I feel you, bruh, I said, nodding my head. She did give me that fire ass head, though, Teddy yelled out, demonstrating his axe with a spatula. What? Stop playing, I said, laughing. Yeah, last week in my car, but don't tell Janelle I told you. She said if I told anybody, she'd cut my dick off, he said, laughing. We laughed for a moment about his escapades, but deep down, I was still very concerned about Janelle's exit. I tried to relax and wait for her phone call, but I never received it. A week had passed, and I did not hear a word from her. I tried calling her, but her phone would always go to voicemail, or someone would pick it up and say she wasn't there. I couldn't explain it, and every day that passed, the more and more worried I got about her safety. I couldn't understand why she would be avoiding me after our night together. Little did I know that an event had taken place after she left my house that I did not know about until much later. But at the time, I was confused, angry, hurt, sad, and disappointed all at the same time. I couldn't sleep, and I barely ate that entire week. I skipped work with Pops, and all I could do was visit the gallery of graffiti and stare at our names, wondering why this was happening, what was the cause of it. Janelle ended up telling me a few months later about the events that took place as soon as she got home. She was rushing out of the house because her father was coming home from his business trip that Sunday night, and she wasn't there to greet him. She tried creeping into her room and pretend that she had been home all night, but she was called out as soon as she got to her bedroom door. Janelle! Get in here! Called out her father in a deep voice from his large office full of books and bookshelves. She slowly walked in, timid about his reaction to her tardiness. Are you just getting home? And aren't you supposed to be in school right now? He asked her while sitting behind his shiny wooden desk in his tall leather chair. She looked over to her right and saw Christian sitting in a chair, looking at her as well. Yes, sir, she said in a scared voice, holding her hands behind her back shamefully. Young, respectable Latina girls do not stay out all night. What has gotten into you lately? I called your school, and they said that you had been missing days, and, her father said sternly, I've been keeping up with my grades and, she interrupted, trying to defend herself. Don't you dare interrupt me, young lady, he yelled out, slamming his fist against his desk. I'm sorry, Daddy, she muttered, looking down at the floor. Now, you still need to take care of your responsibilities. You have school, cheerleading practice, and you still have to prepare for your school's homecoming dance. You have no time to be hanging around, he said with a strong Hispanic accent. I never have time, she muttered under her breath with an attitude. Excuse me, he yelled out, jumping up from his seat. Nothing, she answered. You're damn right nothing. If you think I'm going to let my little girl become some street whore, you have another thing coming. Now, where were you last night? She hesitated for a moment, trying to think of a lie to tell her father. She was probably with that beast. She's been visiting him in the hospital all week, Christian said in a devilish tone, staring at her in disgust. She gave him a dirty look of hatred as he looked back at her the same way. You're telling me that my baby girl is missing school because of some nigger? Her father said angrily. He's not an N-word, Dad. He's Jamaican, she advocated. I don't give a damn what he is. He's not Latino. And I don't want you going anywhere near that boy again, he responded more angrily than before. But Dad, she called out, but nothing. I forbid you to go back down to that broke east side of town. And if I find out that you've been missing any more school, I'll make sure you go to an all-girls high school until you graduate and to an all-girls college overseas. Do I make myself clear? He said to her sternly. She nodded her head, avoiding eye contact with him, and quickly rushed out of his office to her bedroom. Upset, she hurried into her room and tried to close the door behind her, but did not realize that Christian had left behind her as well and held the door open. Go away! She yelled out to him, trying to force the door closed, but her strength was bested by his as he pushed the door open, casually walked inside, and closed the door behind him. I told you we're through already, Christian. I don't want to be with you anymore. Oh, so you don't want to be with me anymore? He asked as he calmly looked around her large bedroom. Why? 'Cause of that beast? Stop calling him that, she yelled out. His name is Jahvon. And no, it's not because of him. It's because you're manipulative, angry, violent, and because I never loved you. He rushed toward her and grabbed her by the throat and slammed her against the wall. He tightened his grip on her furiously while pulling out his gun from his back pocket. What are you doing? She yelled out as he continued to choke her. If you think I'm going to be humiliated by letting you leave me for some beast, you have lost your pretty little mind, he said seriously, placing the gun underneath her neck. Are you crazy? My dad's in the other room, she said, trying to gasp for more air. I don't give a fuck. He's my dad's friend, not mine. I'll walk into his office and put two in him after I finish with you. Christian, please. I can't breathe. You're hurting me, she pleaded as tears started to gather under her eyes. That's the point, he said harshly, gripping a little tighter, then finally letting her neck go. She fell down to her knees and looked up at him, horrified. You listen to me, and you listen good. We aren't through. Not now, not ever. Especially not for some puta negro. If you try and break up with me again, I'll walk over to East Lake Apartments. She looked up at him, stunned that he knew where I lived. Oh, what? You didn't think I knew where you were last night? I have motherfuckers watching you all over this damn city. I run this city. I'm going to walk up to apartment C, to room 205, and I'm going to empty my whole clip in his bitch ass, he said maliciously. No! Yes! If you don't want me to kill little Jahvon, like I should have done a week ago, you might want to start realizing where your place is in this relationship. Okay, okay, she said, giving in to his demands. Just leave them all alone. Good. You love me? He asked, smugly. Yes, she muttered, as tears began to fall down her cheek. I didn't hear you, he said sternly, putting away his gun. Yes, she exclaimed. I want to hear you say it, he yelled out. I love you, she screamed while crying uncontrollably. I knew you would come around, baby. I'll see you tomorrow. Wear something tight, he said, then leaving her room. She spent most of that day in the corner of her room drenched in tears and feeling trapped in her own house. She called Jasmine to explain everything that happened, but even Jasmine had no answers for her. So she spent most of the days at school and at home, depressed and sad. Unaware of the events that had taken place at Janelle's house, I began to become frantic and worried, sitting on my stairs one night with Teddy and Danny, smoking a cigar filled with marijuana. Jay, you want to hit this? Danny asked as I sat there, dazed and confused. A whole week, though? Teddy, something must be wrong. It just doesn't make sense, I said, ignoring Danny's request. He shrugged his shoulders and continued to puff on the blunt in his hand. You're gonna go crazy if you keep thinking about it, Jay. It's Friday night. Let's go downtown and look for some bitches, Teddy said, accepting the blunt from Danny. I don't want some bitches. Want her, I muttered. Damn! That must have been some good ass pussy, boy, Teddy said jokingly, slapping Danny's hand. Yo, easy, I warned, seriously, letting my friends know that he was figuratively walking on thin ice. Don't you have to finish community service? You have like 5 hours left. You can go to the school and go see her on Monday, Teddy suggested, choking from the smoke. I can't wait, I said, with my knees shaking up and down. I have to talk to her now. You just don't understand. That night we had was like nothing I've ever experienced in my life, Ted. Oh my goodness. Jay, I knew you were the Romeo type, but damn. My boy's actually in love with this girl. You old softy, you, Teddy joked mockingly as I rolled my eyes at his comment. Shut up, Teddy, I said, not amused by him. This is serious. I think she might be in some type of trouble. I can feel it. Fine, cried Baby. I'll drive you by her place. We should go pick up your car by there anyway, Teddy said, trying to calm me down. You sure you don't want to hit this? It'll make you feel better. No, not now, I said, waving my hand at the blunt. Okay, lover boy, let's roll, Teddy said, standing to his feet and removing his keys from his side pockets. I just remembered. What happened to you guys when you left the hospital? Did you ever meet up with Christian and his boys? I asked as we walked through the parking lot toward his small Ford Focus. They both started laughing hysterically, holding on to their guts, trying not to catch a stomach ache from the laughter. I'm going to let that white boy tell you the story. That's one wild ass dude. I would ride with him any day, Teddy answered. Really? Y'all can't tell me? I asked again. Nah, talk to Craig. We wouldn't do the story justice if we told you. Let's just say we didn't find all of them, but we caught one of them, and he got a beating that he will never forget, Teddy explained. Never mess with them Eastside boys, Danny yelled out while getting into the car. Damn right. I'm gonna sit my big fat ass on your face, Teddy called out, laughing while starting his car. We drove all the way to Janelle's house, where most of the lights were off except for Janelle's bedroom window. Teddy parked across the street as I crept through her neighbor's yard to use the same route I had taken at her party. I climbed down the tree and carefully climbed down the fence into her lawn. I walked over to her window and began to whisper her name to see if she could hear me. I whispered her name loudly underneath her window, but got no response. So I began to chuck small rocks against her glass window until I could see a shadow approach the curtains. Janelle opened her curtains and saw me, standing there in the dark with a concerned look on her face. She opened the window and poked her head out and whispered loudly, Are you a lunatic? What are you doing here? I came to see you. You haven't hollered at me or responded to my calls. I was seeing if you were okay, I explained. I'm fine. You need to leave now, she said, still with a concerned look on her face, looking up and down the lawn to see if anyone was coming. I don't understand. I thought we were. I paused, embarrassed by my statement that I was about to speak. You know, a thing. No, we are not a thing. You have to go, she said sternly. What? Why are you acting like this? I'm not acting like anything. The other night was a mistake, a huge mistake that I regret. You regret? It should have never happened. I'm back with Christian now, and we are. She paused as I could see her emotions were starting to get the best of her. We are happy, and I don't want to see you anymore. Come on, Janelle. You can't be serious, I pleaded. I am serious. Me and Christian are going to get married. So you need to go before I call the police, she said, still trying to get me to leave her lawn. The police? I asked, shocked. Janelle, what is going on with you? You can tell me. It's me. Jay. I can't, she said as her voice began to tremble. Go now, please. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. I could feel her words becoming heavy on my shoulders as I stood there, lost and confused. My eyes began to produce tears as I could feel our connection slipping away. I looked up toward her window with a look of sadness and pleaded one last time. But I, I, I stuttered as my voice began to tremble itself. I love you. She quickly turned her face like she couldn't look at me anymore and said, I'm sorry, Jay, and placed her head back into her room, closing the window and curtains behind herself. I stood there for a moment trying to comprehend what had just happened. It did not seem real at first, but reality quickly set in. Did I imagine the entire thing? All those days and nights on the phone? The emotions? The hospital visits? Did I make all of it up in my mind? I was confused. I couldn't understand why she would have done this to me. Maybe Pops was wrong about love. Maybe it doesn't exist at all. I shouldn't have ever gotten myself involved with Mommy in the first place. Maybe all women were no good. My mom had left me when I was just a teen. Shantae left me after we had been together for 5 years. And now Janelle had left me after telling me she loved me. My boys were right about women. Just act like you care and get the panties and leave them. I was so angry and hurt at the same time. All my thoughts became negative. I never wanted to feel how I felt that night underneath Janelle's windowsill ever again. I will never feel that way ever again, I thought to myself as I walked back into Teddy's car. A blank stare covered my face as I entered his vehicle. I slumped down into the back seat and stared outside the window as my depressed vibe was quickly picked up by my friends. What happened? Teddy inquired. Was she there? I remained silent for a moment and muttered, "Let's go." You okay, man? Teddy asked, concerned. I'm fine, I quickly responded. Let's just get out of here. Teddy shrugged his shoulders and began to drive away from the luxurious home. I watched her house disappear into the distance, vowing to myself to never set my eyes on it again. We reached my car after several moments, and I quickly hopped out of the car to retrieve my old Impala. Teddy stepped out of the car at the same time to stand outside the driver's side door. I put my keys into the ignition and began to turn the key, but the car just wouldn't start. Ah! What the hell? I muttered to myself, trying to get the car started, but still no response. Are you really okay, Jay? Teddy asked again. I told you, I'm fine, I snapped back, still trying to start the car, but it would not turn over. What the hell? Jay, maybe it's, Teddy started to say. Damn it! Damn it! What the fuck? I screamed out, interrupting Teddy while slamming my hands against the steering wheel. Jay, calm down, bro, Teddy encouraged while I began to punch the wheel as hard as I could several times. Teddy quickly grabbed me from behind and pulled me out of the car before I did severe damage to my hand. As he got me out of the vehicle, I pushed him away and swung my arms for him to let go of my body. Get the fuck off me, I yelled out with my fist clenched. Whoa, whoa, Teddy said with his hands in the air to indicate that he was not looking for trouble. What is wrong with you? What happened? Nothing, I said, upset, attempting to walk away from him. Talk to me, he said, grabbing my arm. Don't touch me, I snapped, quickly, swinging my arm away from his grasp. I continued to walk down the street, knowing that I needed some air to calm my frustrations down, and I needed to be alone to think. Plus, I really did not want Teddy or Danny to see me in this state of mind. Where are you going? Teddy called out as I continued to walk down the street. I did not respond. I just kept walking as fast as I could. I did not know where I was going, but at the time, I did not care. I was just angry. Angry at Pops for feeding me lies, at Teddy for telling me to get involved with Janelle, mad at Christian and his boys, just mad at the world. I ended up at the bus station and decided to take the bus home. I rode the bus in the back seat the entire way with a face of anger. I looked at everyone as an enemy at that moment, and I dared anybody to test the shark-infested waters of my attitude. I could feel the expression on my face turn from sad to angry. Once I got home, I tried to sleep, but I tossed and turned all night. I couldn't stop thinking about Janelle and the situation. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. My stomach felt like it was in knots, and my heart felt like it was building a glacier of ice around it. I couldn't stop thinking, as my body fidgeted around the entire bed, moving left and right. I finally realized that I was not going to get any sleep that night, so I decided to get some fresh air. The weather was slightly windy, so I put on my sweater and stepped out into the cool night air. I stepped out of the door and saw Craig sitting on my stairs again, smoking a marijuana-filled J. Hey, what's up, Craig? I said, sitting down next to him. Ain't shit, cuz, he said, shaking my hand, continuing to face his burned down apartment building. What are you doing here? It's like 3 in the morning, I asked as he passed me the joint. I'm out here every night, waiting for the motherfuckers to come back, and when they try to burn down any of our place again, I have something waiting for 'em, he said, exposing his gun to me. I feel you, man. I hate those poppies. I might need me one of those too, I said, taking a puff of the joint. What? A gun? That ain't your style, Jay. I've known you for a long time, bruh. You a lover, not a fighter, Craig said with a smile. Not anymore, I said to him with a serious face. He grinned again. Okay, Carl. I feel you. I passed him back his joint. So what happened Monday night? I asked. Oh, Ted ain't tell you yet? He asked, surprised. He said ask you, I responded. He laughed while taking another puff of his J. We rolled up at Club 24/7 and saw that dude Loco stand outside with security. I parked across the street and we waited until the boy walked to the sidewalk to smoke a cigarette. Boy, I was so hyped. As soon as I seen that, I told Freddie to grab the driver's seat and I was gone, cuz. I pulled out my strap so quick, ran up on cuz, and smacked him with the burner. What? You smacked him with your gun? I asked with a smile. Damn right. He ain't even seen that shit coming. I think he pissed his pants. All I know is Teddy, Andrew, Danny, and I just started stomping his ass out. I started asking, where your boys at? He didn't answer, so we started stomping his ass some more. I figure they be inside, so I walked right up to security. The bitches tried to ask me for some ID, like I was trying to get into the club and dance. I said, bitch, here my ID, and pulling my gun at him. And Teddy hit him both in the back with the bat. Your boy Teddy gangster, cuh, Craig said, laughing, snapping his fingers. So what happened? I asked, eager to know. I walked into that bitch, but I ain't see the rest of the crew, so we bounced. I just gave that dude Loco another pistol whip and told him to tell his boss who did this. I think I knocked some of his teeth out, cuh. Got the boy smiling crooked. Y'all crazy, I said, excited, giving Craig a hand slap. Can't believe y'all did that shit for me. We boys, Jay. And I know you would have done the same thing for me. Besides, them boys burned down my place. Now I gotta stay with my aunt until they fix it. I hate my aunt, Craig explained, upset, taking another puff. I began to laugh at his comments. You know I got you anytime. I know. I quickly became serious and asked him, so where do you get your gun from? He turned to me, surprised at the question. Where everyone get their guns from. Your cousin. Juice? Juice. Maybe we should pay my cousin a visit, I said, standing to my feet. You serious? He asked, looking at me in shock. Yeah. After what happened to me, I think it's time I strap up too, I declared. Cool with me. I gotta pick up some trees anyway, Craig agreed. Where's your car? On the west side. Won't start, I muttered, depressed. Damn, bruh. I bet those poppies messed with it, Craig sympathized. Come on, we'll use my car. He threw the joint off the side of the stairs and stood to his feet while brushing off his sweatpants as I began to do the same. We walked down the stairs, across the parking lot, and into Craig's green Jeep. Our clothes rustled in the wind as Craig sped down the street toward my cousin's place, which was deep into the east side. The cool night air became blistering cold as we zoomed through the dark streets. The only sound was the thumping of the two 15-inch speakers laying in the back seat of the open Jeep. The doors were completely removed, which exposed our bodies as we drove down a dark alleyway. The area was pitch black as the moon shined down on the long branches coming from the tall, slender trees. Craig made a left down another street that had more light from the street lights, which exposed the low development houses on the sides of the road. The homes were beat down and rusty as people sat outside and around them, conversing or smoking inside their steel fences. People watched us as we drove by, observing our movements and seeing if they recognized the vehicle. We continued to go down the street, but were quickly stopped by a shadow standing in the middle of the road. "Who you looking for?" said a man in the distance, standing in the middle of the street. "Juice," Craig called out to the dark shadow. "That white boy?" asked the shadow. "Yeah, man," he replied. The shadow pointed to the left, so we drove down the street, and then he walked back to the side of the road by an abandoned house. We turned left down the dark street and pulled up to a building with a large garage door. It was open. The large noise of power tools working drained any other sounds around the area. The garage light shined bright enough to illuminate the entire sidewalk. Craig and I got out of the car and walked toward the open garage door where two strong-looking men were stripping down a brand new Cadillac. Craig tried whistling to get the men's attention, but in vain. They just continued their work, not noticing the two men behind them. Suddenly, Rich walked out, reading a newspaper and eating an apple in his house sandals. He looked up from his various standing in the driveway of his garage. "Hey, what the hell y'all doing here? Ain't it past y'all bedtime?" he said in a relaxed voice, still chewing his apple. "What up, Juice?" Craig said, giving him a handshake. "What's up?" I said, walking in with my hands in my sweater pocket. "That white boy and Jahvon. You boys know you ain't supposed to come to my place of business after business hours. You call first," he said. He was serious, but his voice was relaxed. "My bad, cuz. Jay said he wanted to talk to you about something, and since he needed a ride, I figured I'd get some green too," Craig explained. "Some green, huh? What are you looking for?" Rich asked. "The usual," Craig stated. Rich moved over to Craig and stood in front of him. He stood very close to him, and while looking deep into his eyes, he placed his hand behind Craig's neck and said, smiling and chuckling, "Just because I love you and you're such a loyal ass customer, I'm gonna hook you up. It's on the house. Don't even worry about paying me this time. But if you ever come by this late without calling first, I'm gonna have my boy over there slap you around this entire garage until you're known as that black and blue boy instead of that white boy. Okay? Okay? Okay." He then removed his hand from Craig's neck and gave him a very serious look as Craig began to look down ashamed. He sat down on the gray suede couch on the side of the garage. "Dre, can you grab a sack for me?" he yelled out to one of the men working on the car. The man had long dreads and large muscular arms. He dropped his electronic saw and walked toward the back. "My bad, cousin, for coming over so late. I felt like I had to speak to you, you know?" I said apologetically. "It's cool, man. Always time for family," Rich said, smiling, wrapping his arms around me as if he was excited to see me. "I heard about those poppies jumping you. Sorry, cousin, I didn't visit you at the hospital, but I've just been doing a lot, trying to get these garages off the ground." "Is this the garage you've been telling me about?" I asked, looking around the entire shop that was filled with power tools and car parts. "And it's cool, but me getting jumped is what I wanted to talk to you about." "Really?" he said with a grin, sitting down on the soft couch before pointing his finger to tell Craig to move, which he did very quickly. What do you want? Me to help you jump some papi chulos? I want a gun, I said very seriously, looking at his face. His grin became a large, bright smile, and he asked mockingly, You want a gun? Yes, I want a gun, I said firmly to prove my seriousness. Hey, Caleb, Rich called out to the other built man working on the car. The man rose from underneath the car and removed his headphones and looked up at me. Old pretty boy Floyd over here wants a gun. The man just smiled while looking at me, then placed his headphones back on and continued his work. I looked at both of them, not amused. I don't know, Jay. Have you ever used a gun before? Rich inquired. No, but I got some poppies I could practice on, I said, still looking at him seriously. He began to laugh hysterically at my comment, while I stood there not understanding what was causing all of his amusement. Ha 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 ha! Guns are expensive and a risk, especially giving it to someone who has never used one before. You might mess around and shoot yourself. Listen, if you really want a peace, let's compromise each other. What do you mean? I asked with my arms crossed. You come work for me. I'll give you the gun free of charge. I'll even show you how to use it at the range we got in the woods, he said, with his legs crossed over the other, leaned back on the couch. Yo, here, said the dreaded man, coming back with a bag of marijuana. He handed it to Rich and continued with his work. Craig walked back over towards the couch as Rich handed him the bag. Work for you, huh? I said, contemplating the idea. I'll pay you $500 a week. All you have to do is fix cars, drop off some packages for me, and do some extra legwork, Rich explained. Extra legwork? I asked, concerned. Rich began to laugh again. Yes, extra legwork. I mean, $500 a week is pretty good, if you ask me. Listen, I work out every morning at East Crown Park. Meet me there in the morning at 7. I'll explain everything to you. And if you say yes, I'll give you the gun and start paying you. If you say no, then you're back to where you started. Simple, Rich explained, getting off his seat and walking us toward the open garage door. All right, I can do that, I said, thinking. Cool, Rich said as Craig and I started walking down the walkway toward Craig's Jeep. Remember, 7 a.m. Don't be late. We hopped into Craig's Jeep as Craig looked at me, concerned about my interaction with my cousin. You're actually thinking about working for him, Jay? Craig asked while starting the car. Maybe. Why? I responded quickly. I don't know, bruh. Your cousin's crazy and unpredictable. I don't even like messing with him like that. There ain't no telling what's going on in his mind, Craig advised. Well, I think it's time for a little change, I said, looking directly down the street as we began driving through the dark alleyway. Craig just shook his head left and right and kept driving. The next morning, I woke up early to meet Rich at the park. I wore my hooded sweatshirt with an exhausted look on my face because of the lack of sleep. The park was not too far from my house, so I walked there to see Rich by a bench overlooking a soccer field doing push-ups. He wore sweatpants and sneakers with no shirt, exposing his large, muscular body and strong abdominals. I walked over to him slowly and listened to his strong breathing as he counted to himself the number of push-ups he had done. He glanced up and saw me standing in front of him and gave me a large smile before he continued to finish up his long number of push-ups. He finally finished and sat down on the bench, wiping sweat from his body with a small towel. Damn, cousin, how do you have so much energy in the morning? I asked, exhausted. Don't you sleep? Sleep? It's for broke niggas like you, he said with a smile, winking at me. I've been up since you saw me earlier. I don't sleep, cousin. My line of work, sleeping gets you killed. What is your line of work? I asked. He just gave me a smile and started looking at the football field. A group of Venezuelan men in soccer uniforms began to run onto the field, kicking a soccer ball around. I looked at them along with him. Perfect timing, he said with a grin, extending his arms wide. I come here every Saturday morning to watch these guys play. They play for a team out in Miami, but they practice here once a week so they can be isolated and other teams can't spy on their practices. Forget going to a stadium or watching it on TV. Now, this is what I call real high definition. See that player with the number 11 jersey in? I nodded my head in acknowledgement. That is Enrique. He is amazing with a soccer ball. Best player I've ever seen and captain of the team. I thought we were here to talk about the job, I asked, confused. We are, and I don't like being interrupted, he said seriously, then went back to grinning. He's a star of their team. See? Look, he always goes middle and loses the first two defenders. Now the defense is all discombobulated because they have to chase down the man with the ball, and this forces the other defender to leave their man and confront him. As soon as they do, he passes to one of the players running with him on the sides. As the other players have the ball, passing it from side to side, Enrique stays middle. He just sprints through the entire defense. See? Where they're so concerned about retrieving the ball, he runs all the way towards the goal, but never goes offside. Finally, one of the players passes back to him, but by that time, he is wide open. Look, see? Now it's just him and the goalie. He does this every week, same move. Fakes left, then go. Goal! You're the man, Enrique! Rich started, clapping in excitement as I continued to look at him, confused. Yeah, he's good, I added. No, he said seriously. He's unstoppable. He does the same play with the same players every week, and they still can't do anything about it. So imagine when they play with other teams. They won't even know what hit them. See how every player in the offense plays their role, plays it well? They do the exact play until it becomes like a science or a second nature. It's executed to perfection and leads to a goal each time, Rich explained. I understand, I stated. I hope so, Jay. This is how my operation works. I am the captain of the team. I make the initial moves, and everyone else on the team follows suit. Once the game plan is set in motion, everyone has to play their role perfectly. One bad slip up, and the play is completely useless. When I say be somewhere or do something, you do it exactly how I say it. You don't question, and you don't improvise. You do exactly what I say, and we'll be fine. And if not, Rich continued to explain, I understand, Juice. I get it. I reiterated. You remember why they called me that, right? Juice? I didn't just want to fuck that kid up. I wanted to embarrass him. Because I wanted everyone to know if I got a problem with you, I'm going to make sure you suffer. You ever wonder why you never seen that kid in school after that? Later that afternoon, I walked over where he lived and saw him riding his bike back home. I ran up behind him with a metal pipe and banged it against his knee. I told him, if I ever see your face again, I will break both your legs. I'm not mean or a sadistic person, but it's about respect. If people don't respect you out here, They'll eat you alive. They're all animals, savages out here, Jay. I had to let everybody know that I wasn't just a savage, but I'm rabid. I will run over anyone in my way or anyone who stands between me and my goals. Jay, I mean anyone. I lived on the streets for a while. You remember that? When my dad left and grandma and grandpa didn't want anything to do with me, no one would take me in. Even your dad said he didn't want me in your house anymore, that I was contaminated. Come on, Juice. You knew I had nothing to do with that. But Dad's an asshole, I said apologetically. You ain't stand up for me. You just stood there. But it's all good. I don't hold grudges. You're family, and I love you. I'll admit, I had some hard times growing up. No one giving any handouts to help or giving me hopes in their prayers. Just left me to fend for myself. And that's exactly what I did. If I wanted it, I just took it, Jay. This world is my soccer field, and I'll make the goal every time. I made my own business. I drop fly ass toys everywhere I go. I got the finest bitches. I got it all. And no one gave it to me. I have my whole block on lock. No one goes in or out of there without checking with me first. Even the cops have to pay a toll. See, that's what you never understood, Jahvon. You wait for people to give you a handout, or wait for the day to come where all your hopes and wishes come true. Nah, fuck that. I want it, I take it. And if the other man wants to stop me, you hit him with a school lunch tray and you pour juice on his ass. Because at the end of the day, no one remembers the losers or the runner ups. They only remember the winners. I am a winner. I never lose. You work for me, I'll give you women, I'll give you money, and I'll give you your revenge. No church can provide the gifts I provide, Jay. You want it? It's yours. All you have to do is promise to be loyal and stick to the plan, Rich declared. I nodded my head as I absorbed all the information that was given to me. Let's do it. I don't have anything else to lose anymore, I said, shrugging my shoulders. He gave me a devious smile and said, okay, you work for me now. I ain't like Pops. I need you to be in the shop every morning at 8, and I'll tell you when you can leave. I can't Monday. I have to finish the community service so I can be done with it, I said. That's fine. Tuesday, bright and early, Rich said, standing to his feet, patting me on my shoulder. And I'll get you plenty of girls. Don't worry about that West Island chick. How did you know about that? I asked, confused. He just smiled at me and grabbed the gym bag sitting behind the bench. He unzipped it and pulled out a black stainless steel 9mm handgun and handed it to me. I looked at it for a moment, slightly concerned and fearful of the object in my hand. Take that with you whenever you come to the shop. You got some weirdos around my way. And don't kill any poppies with it just yet. Be patient. You'll get your chance. I looked at him, then back to the blunt, heavy object in my hand, wondering if I was making a mistake. I quickly stuffed the gun into my sweatshirt pocket and stood to my feet. You work for me now, pretty boy. Get ready for a wild ride, Rich said, laughing while walking away from me and out of the park. I stood there for a moment looking into the sky, wondering what I got myself into.